there's no one way to lead a business. There's no one motive that you should have behind running your business. There's going to be a right way for you, and that right way for you can change and evolve as you evolve, right? You're not a static being. Your offer might evolve, your team might evolve, you might go back to solopreneur, you might build a big team. There's no wrong thing. Optimizing the founder. That's right. Optimizing the founder. So this is going to be all around just some key questions for your mission, for how you want to operate your business, for what you're optimizing for in your business. A lot of important things that I think I didn't consider until I was in the deep end of the pool. And so I'm going to post them as questions to you guys. But before we jump in, I'd love if you guys can drop in the chat just one thing that you'd like to optimize, or one question you have, or one thing you want to get from this workshop. And we'll just jump in because this is for y'all. You know, it's partially for me so I can feel cute about all the things I know, but it's also for you. And I'll start when I get at least 7 replies. Okay, got 1. All right, Drew, we're probably not going to do that kind of stuff in this call. We got calls for that. This is like vision, founder, mission, lifestyle, balancing business with kids, WLB, I'm not sure what that means. Growth versus space, investing in growth versus cashing out. Working with doubt and anxiety, yes, totally. Bringing more flow and less force in actions, love it. Work-life balance, got it, WLB. Especially when thinking about really expanding beyond myself, like having a team, yes, Rachel, we gotta talk about that, huh? Being confident on how to get consistently managing finances intelligently instead of being in the dark. Flow, ease. Before you hire a team, how do you balance taking breaks from discovery calls? Balancing hunger to grow versus taking pauses to reset. Discipline and routines. Balancing biz with rest. All right, a lot of themes here. That's great. I'm gonna do a little stretch. You guys can join me. Oh, you know, oh. Hope you guys have some like ergonomic desks and stools and chairs that you use and like stand up while you work and stuff, because it's not natural to just be hunched at a little thing all day. Awesome. So you need a pen, paper, or somewhere to take some notes, and let's jump in. I'm going to give you guys 10 seconds to get that going. Personal development to optimize business. Awesomeness. You guys good to go? Awesomeness. Cool. So the very first thing I want to mention is that this whole workshop was inspired by this book, The Abundance Decision by Mallory Nicole. Highly recommend it. I read it while I was in Costa Rica, and yeah, everyone say, ooh, ah. Yeah, you gotta say it out loud. Come on. All right. Thank you guys. I see the lips moving. I'm trusting that there's sound coming out. It's the subtitle is The Intersection of a Thriving Business and Fulfilling Life. Okay, so it has a lot of amazing sections in here, and I thought it was pretty invaluable for me. Um, and the thing that I want to preface before I talk about some of the concepts from this book and just also some personal things I'm bringing in here and stuff that you guys are bringing in is how she prefaces the whole book, which is, you know what, there's no one way to lead a business. There's no one motive that you should have behind running your business. There's no one right way to do it. There's going to be a right way for you, and that right way for you can change and evolve as you evolve, right? You're not a static being. Your offer might evolve, your team might evolve, you might go back to solopreneur, you might build a big team. There's no wrong thing. All we want to do is uncover what's right for you in this moment and for this season of your business. So just keep that in mind. Like as I go through these questions, you might feel some pressure or maybe not, from societal expectations or from what other business owners are doing to have certain answers that may not be genuine to you. So I am offering up for you to refrain from answering in any way that's not genuine to you because it's not going to help, right? Cool. So the first question is a very simple question. What is the purpose of the business? There's three options I'm going to present as simple options. One is lifestyle, right? So essentially, you have this business so that you can facilitate the lifestyle that you want, right? Your lifestyle is the focus, and the business is simply funding your lifestyle. Okay, that's one option is lifestyle. That's what a lifestyle business is. You have a business so you can just spend most of your time doing whatever else that's not the business that you like and have the time and money for it. Okay, that's one. The second is cash flow. Okay, so are you running this business and operating it as a cash flow vehicle, right? It's just meant to generate as much money as possible, and that's the main purpose of the business. The third goal that founders could have is exiting a business, which is can happen two ways. One is where you simply just become like a business owner that has this team under them, and you're kind of like out of the picture. And exiting in a true sense is where you sell the business entirely, right? Which is a possibility, okay? Especially as you grow the business to larger numbers, you can sell the business when the finances look good. And that's something you can move towards. So I want you to just think about those three because those three different businesses will have very different ways of operating and very different energy inputs needed. Okay? You guys clear on which one's more of a focus for you? Or any questions on this part so far? Yeah, in this season. In this season. You don't have to have the answer forever, but for the foreseeable future, right? The next 6 months, a year, 2 years, right? Yeah, if you feel called to put your thing in the chat, you can. So Sunrise saying lifestyle, cash flow. I have my speculations as to what the answers are in the community. I'll leave my judgments out. That the mission would be one of the options. Yeah, we'll talk about that, Rachel. That's more of a motivator than a model, if that makes sense. Okay. All right, moving on, we're going to talk about motives and drivers. And I'm going to name them, and then I'm going to have you create your own hierarchy of motives and drivers. So here's some of the most common motives and drivers that business owners will have. One is you love solving problems. Okay, you could just write these down just so you can do that exercise. One is you love solving problems. Okay, you're just obsessed with solving problems. Two is you love being in competition with yourself. Okay, you like competing with yourself and seeing what you're capable of. That's the second motive. Number three, you want freedom around time and finances. Okay, you want freedom around time and finances. Self-explanatory. Four, you want to lead companies and build things that last. Okay, getting some head shakes. No, build a company. Right, it might feel so strange, holistic setting, right? Number five, you want to help people. Okay, you guys got those? You love solving problems. You love being in competition with yourself. You want freedom around time and finances. You want to lead companies and build things that last, or you want to help people. So number six, wants naps. That's also an option, right? Lifestyle. That's number three, Drew. Okay, that's freedom around time and finances. You can get paid while you nap. All right. Uh, so what I want you to do is just to the best of your ability in your heart of hearts, list these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the order that is genuine to you. What's your number one driver? And I really invite you before you do anything, stop. Before you do it, drop the pen. Don't answer what you think is the right answer. Don't answer what you think you should answer. Ask, this is super important, okay? It's super important because this determines the trajectory of how you relate with your work and how you work. So don't answer what you think you should answer. Please answer what is the most genuine when you really sit with it. One, two, three, four, five, go ahead. Most important to least important motive. Yeah, you can put your hierarchy in the chat if you like. It's up to you. And know that I'm not looking for any specific answers here. Anyone like a little surprised by their answer or just like, interesting, kind of interesting. Personally speaking, I'm just sharing from my own part. I think I was convinced that five was the first one for a long time. And then I realized actually number two is what gets me going. I love seeing what I'm capable of in my business more than I love helping people. And that doesn't mean I don't like helping people, right? None of this means that you negate the other. It just means and that's okay. And so that was really helpful for me to understand. Competition with self did not resonate. Yeah, I love it. I'm driven by it. I'm like, man, this all can be so much better. I'm like, oh, this can be better. And it doesn't depress me, it excites me. I see the deficit, and I'm like, oh, like, I like solving problems. I like being in competition, and I like seeing what I'm capable of. And that like just gets me going. And inevitably, that ends up making a better product for everybody, right? There was a podcast I was listening to, and he was talking about EMTs, like emergency responders and paramedics, whatever. And he was saying, imagine that one paramedic is just like very heart centered, and like their main thing is like to make you feel seen and cared for, whatever. And the second paramedic is basically obsessed with having the best statistics in his company, which is like the highest levels of survival, the quickest to the hospital, the blah 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 blah. Like just, but he doesn't like not the empathy, like he doesn't have like the empathy going for him, but it's more like the stats. He wants to dominate the stats in his company. Which one would you rather have as your EMT in an emergency, right? It's very interesting. Like the one that's empathetic and like, oh, I see you and blah blah blah, and I'm totally here for you. Or the one who's like, I must dominate and get the best statistics on every metric possible with this patient, right? Inevitably, the person who wants to dominate is going to give you the best care. It's very interesting. Whereas I think a lot of people is, oh, the caring person is going to give the most care. No, person who is driven by being the best is inevitably actually going to, in this scenario particularly, is going to give it better. I would trust my life with them more, is what I would say. So I thought that that was a really interesting example. All right, you guys good on this one? All right. Another one, and you know what? I know a lot of these things kind of blend into each other, but is what sort of business owner you are you? Okay. And I'm gonna just list a few options. This is not a conclusive list, right? An exhaustive list. It's just some different archetypes I thought of. So the first is the visionary missionary, right? The second is just practitioner, right? You just want to do your practice. The third is business owner, right? Which is probably different than what a lot of people think business owner means, where it's just you own the business. It runs without you doing anything, and you don't have to be present, right? Solopreneur, you just want to be solopreneur, or operator, right? You like the management, the day to day, the you know running the calls, doing the systems. Emmeline, totally got you. I'm just sharing an example.
Could you explain solopreneur again?
Solopreneur means you don't want to ever have another person on your team. You just want to run a lean sort of thing. So some questions for you to contemplate with these different archetypes are, do you want a team? Right? And an even more important question than do you want a team is, do you want what having a team would ask of you? Okay. That's a more important question. A lot of the times people want something, but they don't want what that thing would ask of them. Therefore, they don't actually get it. Do you want to simply own the business? Do you want to simply operate the business? Do you want to change how a large group of people think? Or do you want to impact a few people one at a time? These are all different questions to kind of triangulate more so what sort of archetype you're fitting into. So just taking a moment to reflect on those questions. I can drop the questions in the chat too if that's helpful, along with the archetypes. I put them in the chat in case you want to look at them. So just spending a moment here, I'll just take a minute, answer some of these. Visionary missionary? Well, you just are like obsessed and hyped about the thing and need to get the good word out, right? You're like, this is what everyone should be doing, or what a lot of people should be doing, and they all need to know about it. And more like a personality. Maybe you're more charismatic. People like to follow you, listen to you. Because there's like a trillion businesses out there where there's no vision and mission, and it's not wrong. It's like, I fix people's stoves. Like, it's not wrong. We need that in the world. Like, I fix your gut health, right? It's not wrong. We need that. Whereas it might not be like a visionary mission that everyone needs to be a part of, right? Just because that looks cute on Instagram doesn't mean it has to be what your thing is. Practitioners just doing the work, right? You like the consultations. You like reading the charts. You like giving the prescriptions. You like just doing the one-on-ones, and everything else you're kind of indifferent to. Anybody have anything that they want to share out loud or any questions on this? Anything coming up for you? Mm-hmm.
Hmm. It's good for me to just keep saying this out loud. Like I have for probably the whole expanse of the 17 years I've been in business. external reflection of like bigger, expand, let it grow, and internal resistance. I don't want team. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to hassle. And so there's this constant place, like my inner heart is like mission, vision, get it out there in a big way, connect with more people. And then I bump up against that. Yeah.
What
So
don't you
just
want to deal with?
say it again. Sorry.
What don't you want to deal with?
The most practical first answer to that is I think I have some assumptions about being responsible for the livelihood of other people. I wrote it somewhere, but it doesn't matter. I know it in here. It's the place of uh if things go south when I'm a solopreneur, I can course correct easily, right? I can get a job at McDonald's if I have to, right? Like I can support myself. I can find a way to like make things okay. Uh, but there's fear and intimidation that sits around the idea of being responsible for other people's income, livelihood, financial support. That's top level. There's probably other things, but that's always the first thought.
Yeah, totally. It is a legitimate concern for sure. Like at 12, that's full income comes from just my company. Um, would you would you like me to just hear you out on that? Do you want me to challenge you on that? Or do you have a question around that? Or did you just want to express it?
I would love to hear a perspective about that and
Yeah,
explore it a bit more because it needs to, if I'm going to do anything else, I at least need to understand it and then be able to make a more empowered choice around it rather than be stuck in the fear about it.
can I ask you a question then?
Mhm.
Uh, do you feel like the people that you would want on your team would be less competent than you in figuring out how to take care of themselves if things went south?
No way. Yeah, they would be capable. They would be competent. They would be powerful. Hmm.
Okay, so what's the real fear there? Because initially was
Yeah.
initially it was that, they're gonna be screwed or something.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. That's helpful. So then, mm, like letting people down, failing, um, looking bad. Mm. Yeah, it's all that yuck stuff.
Got you. So that's really great that you just let that out first
Mm.
off, because we just came to a very different place of actually, I just don't want to be, I just don't want to let people down. I don't want to be seen as a failure
Yeah.
rather than I just don't want to have to deal with being responsible for someone's livelihood.
Right. Yeah. It's much more ego driven, isn't it? It's one part heart, like I don't want to let people down, but it's
Well, but
also
I,
big time ego. I don't want to look bad. And
yeah,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Shoot.
uh,
Okay.
I find it's very common, and this is a lot of the self-discovery things I've had to keep going with in myself. Like, am I am I just wanting to help people? No, I like making money. I like seeing what I'm
Mm-hmm.
capable of, and I like helping as many people as possible as a result of that.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of people, especially within like spiritual holistic space, there's like the external shell of what they say, and then you go a layer deeper, and there's a little fear in there. There's a little
Mhm.
opportunity for growth in there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I
Yeah.
just don't want to be seen as a failure.
Mm.
Anybody here enjoy being seen as a failure? Raise your hand.
Oh,
Okay, you're in good company. It is
yeah.
it is
Sure.
it is natural to not be want to see not want to be seen in a particular way. Um, Have you ever been fired?
Oh yeah. In fact, being fired is what let me actually turn the corner into going full time in my business. At least that time. I've been fired once. All
Are,
right.
are you upset about the fact that you started your own business?
No, not at all. Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
feel like something wrong happened?
No. Served me at the end of the day. And pretty much every failure has done that in some way, actually. And in some ways, I excel at connecting with people because, at least in the world, oh, here's something interesting, Imuna. At least in the world of like personal failure, and when it comes to like maybe like life relationships, I don't have any hangups. Let me tell you about the time I lost my shit over a Tupperware drawer. Like I have no trouble going into that space and sharing my failings as a human being. So there's something that is connected in the world of maybe this next level up for me of leadership. And then when money gets tied into it, there's this place where it gets a
Yeah.
little hung up.
So you're okay being humble and open with your shortcomings when it's personal, but
Mm,
not when it's professional.
mm, okay. Well
That
said.
was
Yeah.
a question.
No, I think that's it. That really hit. Yeah. That really hit.
And if I'm guessing, you can reject this if it doesn't land. You can be imperfect in your personal relationships, but not as a leader and business owner.
Hmm. Hmm. Yes, and as I'm pulling that thread, I'm even, memories and moments are coming through of like, but Rachel, you really blew it with that, when you were leading and working with that, volunteer or, working in this, project or so I can start to see the falseness of that even too. Actually, I do have some capacity there. And so now it's about scale, right?
The problems kind of get slightly uglier and hairier as you
Hmm. Yeah.
and your capacity scales with it,
Hmm.
and your emotional resilience scales with it. Um, what was I going to? I was going to share.
Yeah.
There's some things that can only be learned through effing it up,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
what would happen if we were unwilling to F it up is inevitably we would be showing up in a lower quality and lower capacity than we're capable of.
Hmm.
There's certain situations that we don't have figured out yet that need to come to the surface in a way that's uncomfortable and unpleasant in order for us to say, oh, okay, now I know how I'm going to deal with that going forward. And it's now like a locked in skill set that you have.
Hmm. Hmm.
And those will continue to come. But if you're what I find I'll just speak for myself. What I find is if I'm unwilling to do that because of how I'll be seen or whatever, then I'm cheating my team and my clients and everybody else.
Hmm.
Because I'm basically setting the precedent that like, hey, I'm only good at growing and leading when things are good. I'm a fair weather leader,
Hmm.
sunny skies leader. But actually when things are confronting, you know, I'm not willing to face it is the precedent I'm setting. And I find that that's the only way that like our nature actually becomes more apparent is through being squeezed by life. There's like an
Yeah.
external facade I think I've seen within myself, but to the extent I'm squeezed by life, whatever's inside will come out. It's easy to be cute when things are going great,
Hmm.
but when things really start to squeeze, then we see what happens. and we see what's in there. But if we can transmute that, then hey, we're going to get squeezed again, and more beauty, more connection, more intimacy, more opportunity comes out. So, anyways, just little thoughts to plant there.
Yep.
You don't have
Really
to
helpful.
express your perspective, but just some of my own perspectives there. So
Thank you.
let's move on here. Yeah, you're welcome. I wanted to talk quickly about, I have two more tiny things to go over. So one is the emotional identity within business. This is really important and very interesting for me to observe. So secretly, not secretly, every client that comes in, we actually have our client success team like understand them psychologically in the first few weeks of working with us and almost like put them in a category of like, are they a worrier? Are they a leader? Are they a follower or controller or something else, right? And based on how they engage with us, they're going to need a certain type of support that's going to be more supportive for their archetype and emotional state of being. But the ones that I have here mapped out are a little bit different names, but one is called the struggler, okay? The struggler business owner, which is essentially the pattern of just telling yourself that everything is hard. No matter how prosperous things are or how challenging things are, this sort of business owner will just focus on how hard everything is. So this person, it's practically impossible for them to enjoy any growth and to enjoy any result and to enjoy any learning within the process, right? Obviously, I'm making some absolutes here. It can be a spectrum, but this is the archetype. And this sort of person, I always ask them on a call, I'm like, when's the last time you celebrated yourself? Right? I've had some people that like went from like 0 to like 40 grand in a month, and then they had like a low month, and they're like, everything's horrible, you know, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, have you, like, when's the last time you celebrated you? And they're like, huh? And they're like really shooketh by the question. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, when's the last time you celebrated yourself? And they're like, um, they can't think of it. That is a sign. If you have not celebrated yourself, because there's a trillion milestones. It's not just revenue. It's like, man, I learned about my offer. Man, I learned about this. Man, I learned about Legion. There's a trillion tiny bricks we stack to build a house. And if it's like, well, the house isn't finished, house, this chair's still out of place. It's like, what? I mean, what? We built, we made, yeah, we made all this progress. You know, so kind of like thinking in absolutist terms that are really unhelpful psychologically. Because when you're in the energy of hard, reality conforms to your beliefs and things feel hard. You're looking for proof that things are hard. And then you show up to the conversation, the sale's going to be hard. This is going to be hard. That's going to be hard. Guess what? That's the energy of scarcity and survival. It's the direct in direct opposition to the energy of creation and expansion. Right? You can't survive and create at the same time. Like those sort of energies are diametrically opposed. You can't run away from a tiger and think about your next music piece or, you know, you know, making babies or, you know, some new business site. You're just going to be running from that tiger. So this is the first one, struggler. Recognize if you was a struggler, emotional identity. I can fall into that category too sometimes. And my rule as when I fall into that category myself is, hey, can I reduce the amount of time between a stimuli happening, me pouting about the stimuli, and then me just doing the factual work that is needed to be done to take the next step? Can I reduce that I don't know what to call that phase? Can I reduce that cycle, I should say, that time period? Overachiever is the next one. Okay, this is the psychological pattern of craving approval from the people around them, like their team, their clients, their peers, their coach. And if they don't get the validation they're looking for, they feel anxious and start to fall into scarcity. Okay, so constantly needing to do things right, needing to show more proof that they're valuable, needing to add more things, over deliver more, or else it's not going to be right. Okay. So, Stephanie, the first one was struggler. This one's overachiever. Okay, so this is overachiever. The third one is avoidance. Okay, so this is the pattern of somebody who tries to protect other people's energy more than their own as a business owner. So they can't stand the idea of inconveniencing other people, making them uncomfortable. This person avoids conflict, avoids difficult conversations, holds on to misaligned clients. Who here has fired a client? Raise your hand. Ah, yeah, that's what I'd like to see. Just fire that client. You know what I'm saying? What else was it? Yeah, so they're holding on to misaligned clients, misaligned team members, misaligned partners, so they don't have to upset anybody. Okay. You have a client you want to fire. What would it be like to fire them? What I've always found is I get more of what I want when I confront that feeling of being scared with the client. When I say no, it opens up many more people who are higher quality who are waiting for me to upgrade my standards for them, if that makes sense. I had to say no to the $50 consult so that the clients who wanted to pay me $1,000 are like, oh, you're available now. Okay, you made the decision. I had to say no to just anyone who would pay me so that people who are really aligned would, hey, I'm here. I've been waiting for you. I've been waiting for you to say no to all that other nonsense. That's what I found again and again. Anytime I brush up against, oh, I'm just doing this because I need money, or because scarcity reason, or because fear reason, or because I want to avoid confrontation, it never worked out well. It never worked out well. Like categorically, every time I went against my intuition, I'm like, well, like something's off about this person, but I kind of want to make a sale, and like I could help them. Nightmare, nightmare, nightmare. Every time. Amazing. Amazing how God makes me pay so harshly for ignoring my intuition. I'm like, come on, man, be a little more gentle. Okay, so that's avoidant. Oops, my whole screen disappeared. Oh, here we are. Superhero is the last one. Okay, so this is the person who doesn't know when to ask for help. Okay, they insist on doing everything themselves and get angry when things go out of their control. Okay, business owners who don't hire help, who are not humble enough to ask for guidance, see where they're wrong, ask for mentorship, tell their clients, hey, can't do it. The superhero. So this is just naming a few. It's not an exhaustive list again, and nobody is absolutely one. Okay, it's more of a spectrum, all right, that we can follow along into like these different categories. And so the point is, by understanding these archetypes, we can see the opportunity we have to practice letting go of particular unhelpful narratives and try something new. Okay, what would it be like to assume the opposite? Right? I think this with a lot of negative assumptions that I've had in the past. I just say, okay, let me just be annoying and assume the opposite for a week. Right? I had this assumption for a while when I was like probably 7 years ago or something, that everyone would see the bad in me, right? It was like it wasn't like a super gross thing, but it was like under the surface. And it would like really bother me, like, oh, like they're just gonna see like the bad in me. And I just like thought, well, what if I just assume the opposite for like a few weeks and just everyone's gonna see the good in me. Everyone that meets me, they're gonna see the good in me. I'm like, would it hurt to just try it on like an outfit and just see? And I just found so much liberation in reversing my negative assumptions, just like trying it as an experiment and reminding myself of the opposite assumption. So this is kind of the purpose of this, like seeing what the emotional archetype is. Like, what if what if for the person that says everything's hard, you said, Look at how easeful things are. Look, I can approach difficult things with ease. That's what I try to differentiate. There's hard is a way of relating with reality. It is not objective truth. Difficult may be true, which is your level of skill set versus the level of challenge, right? When the level of challenge exceeds your skill set, we see something as difficult. But there's a trust that we can develop as I can approach difficult things with a consciousness of ease. And often it's the only way to actually level up. Because when we're constricted and approaching it has to be hard and trying to brute force our way through it, we don't actually up level, right? I'm like, man, it's really challenging. What if it was easy? How would I approach this if it was easy? Okay. So kind of ways to like trick our own brain because like I put in the beginning of our like mindset section, I think what holds up most entrepreneurs from like 10xing, 100xing is just their own mind. It's wild. Just the thoughts because the actions that create success have not changed in millions of years in business, right? Just like the actions that create health have not changed, even though there's tons of new info and techniques, getting good sleep, eating foods that are wholesome and according to your body type, thinking good thoughts, having good relations. Those have always been like, that's what creates health. Just like business, it's like you bring value to the market, you solve problems in the marketplace better than other people solve the problem, and then they reciprocate with some form of currency. And that's it. It's never changed. Um, so some things to consider here. Now, last little section, because I know we're close to time here, is some guides for longevity as an entrepreneur. This is something I've been contemplating a lot. That's why I took the trip to Costa Rica. It's why I've been reading Abundance Decision. So I've been, have a team. Um, because I like grinded for a while. When it was just me, it's actually harder than when I have a team. It's so paradoxical, like I could relate with the fear that Rachel had. Like, man, oh, even having a team, like I never thought I was gonna have a team. Never thought I was gonna have. I didn't like create my Ayurveda stuff like, oh, I'm gonna build this big. I'm gonna help thousands of people and I'm gonna have a big team. I'm gonna make millions of dollars. Like it didn't cross my mind. Um, but all just things that developed as I saw, okay, there's systems. There's ways I can create more longevity. There's ways I can create more ease. So I'm just going to share a few. One is taking a seasonal founder retreat. Okay. It can be a day, it can be a week, but essentially it is necessary during your retreat to become unreachable. Okay. At least by clients and work, whatever. So I don't have Gmail, Slack, any social medias on my phone anyway, but I didn't check any of that on my laptop while I was in Costa Rica. I was just like, nope, not doing it, right? Clients are going to survive. I got a great team. Even if I didn't have a team, I would just let all the clients know I'm not reachable for a week. Everyone's going to live. And the point is to unplug. I got to read, think, dance, drink some juice. Nothing fancy. I just stayed in one house for a week. But the level of innovation that comes is not available when you're in the thick of operations, right? The new way of being, the new way of operating, new way of thinking is not possible unless you really take yourself into a new setting and stop doing the same things you're doing for at least a set period of time. So that's the whole purpose of this experiment. Every high-level entrepreneur does this. And I believe if you want to become one too, build these in. Even again, I know some of your parents, some things are challenging, but just even one day or even half a day on a weekend, or you go into the forest. If you can do a little bit longer in a really beautiful spot, awesome. What I did is I went on kayak and I clicked the explore function on kayak and I put nonstop flight only and saw flights that were under a few hours So it was $220 round trip to Costa Rica from Florida. And it was a 3 hour and 15-minute flight. I was like, why would I not go to the jungle for a 3 hour flight for $220 round trip? And the Airbnb was like $700 for the week, split it with Ananda. I was like, man, that's great. So why not? And what I find is unless I put this as a forcefully inserted into my calendar every quarter, it's not going to happen. So I just do quarterly. I'll do one again in June. I'll do one again in September. I'll do one again in December, each at the end of each quarter. So highly recommend. Next thing for longevity, having fun. You get to do your business however you want. You could put on dance music for your workshop. You could be weird as hell. They already paid. They can't escape anyway, right? I'm like, y'all stuck with me. That's it. Why not show up in a way that's actually nourishing for me and life-giving for me and have a little fun? So the question here is, how can I invite more joy? How can I invite more play? How can I invite more goofiness into my work? How can I invite more of me? Is there any way, anywhere where I'm not allowing myself to be more me in my business? Because that's just not sustainable. That just feels hard. And I say, stop taking things so seriously all the time. That's what I tell myself. So that's my next tip for longevity. Stop taking things so seriously, right? And just personally, you can think about being in a worse scenario than you are now and you being fine, or think about your mortality and inevitable death. It's another great frame, and that you're going to die anyway and lose all the money and possessions and accolades, whatever, anyway. Not to be like super weird, but just as reality, it's like as sure as birth, there's death. So why be so damn like, imagine like old you looking back and like, you're just grumpy all the time, just grumpy and serious. Everything's hard, tough. So you don't have to do any of these suggestions. I'm just sharing what's helped me, okay? Um, Another thing that's helped me as an entrepreneur to have more longevity is taking the frame of the elder. It's a little bit similar to remembering my mortality, but take the frame of old me, right? Me as a 80-year-old. Because that is a person who can coach you very well. There's a paradox of we're all great at giving advice to others, which is why we're here in this room, and just look at how much you're following your own damn advice. There's some incongruence there, and so many studies have been done on this. Some will be like, "Oh, I'm following all that advice." Hell no. But what is helpful is having your 80-year-old self, 90-year-old self, whatever, as your coach. When you're being challenged, just close your eyes, see 80-year-old you watching you in this moment. You know what the first thing mine does? He laughs at me. He's like, bro, you think that's serious? He's like, you really caught up? Because he's a little bit of a jokester. He's old now. He can get away with being a little bit more rowdy than now. So that's the first thing he does. And then he gives me sobering advice. And he's like, yeah, you know what? You're gonna do this. You're gonna get through it. You're gonna breathe. You're gonna help people. Tons of people that care about you. All the basic things that humans need to hear to be okay in themselves. That's what he tells me. Okay. So that's another one. Another one that a mentor told me who's running a very high level business is remembering that you're already free. You're just playing the game. You're already free. You're just playing the game. That's been a helpful frame for me as well, mentally, to have a little less pressure on myself, a little less seriousness. If I'm already free, I'm choosing to play the game of business. No one made me, which is the next point, which is moving from have to choose to. We talked about this on Monday, so I'm not going to be super redundant. That was what a lot of the talk was about on Monday. But thinking about all the ways you say have to, must in your life, and flipping that frame to choose to. I get to. I choose to. I'm blessed to. Another helpful frame is understanding that the best games to play are infinite games, right? They're not games that you just win. Well, that's boring. So what do I mean by that? Well, health is an infinite game, right? You don't just like get health and then you're good. It's like you maintain health is how you win, right? For life. Uh, in a relationship, you don't just get married and you're like, great, I've won. You stay married, or whatever that goal is for you. Right? You have a healthy relationship. You don't just start a business or get some clients. You keep the business going. You grow the mission. It's like an infinite game. And I think that that's really helped me and a lot of clients when they've made that shift, it's just become so much more sustainable. Because guess what's at the end of what you think is going to make you happy? Nothing. Just void. Nothing. Like I can tell you from experience, at least financially, like nothing. Nothing's there. Nothing's there. So if you're saddened by that, then perhaps it's a good time to reflect on how you relate with your business. Because what I find is being in love with the process is much more valuable than just chasing some result. Because inevitably that's how the result is made anyway, is by being obsessed with and in love with the process and in love with the game. That's how the results are made. But when you just obsess over results, then you're like fighting against nature because that's not how nature works. You water the tree every day, you fertilize the soil, you make sure it gets sun, then eventually the fruit grows. You're not like apple, 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 apple. Where are the apples? And you're like not actually watering the tree, fertilizing, and do all other things. I'm being a little ridiculous, but you guys get the point. Another thing that kind of goes along with having fun is becoming obsessed. This is something I like to do. Become obsessed. Become obsessed. Allow yourself to be obsessed. Other people who don't want to do big things and build big businesses and build big missions, they're not going to be obsessed. That's cool. They're not trying to do what you're trying to do. And in order for you to do something that very few people do, you have to be a different way than most people are. And becoming obsessed is a great way that I like to have fun. I'm obsessed. I love it. Uh, anyways, I could keep going. I guess the last point I'll talk about is just very quickly on the point of Rachel. You know, I never thought I was going to have a team, Rachel. And the first motive of my business was not work for someone I don't like, help some people, and try not to be broke. That was the first it wasn't like some grandiose like save the world thing. It was like I really don't want to work for someone I don't feel aligned with, and I never picture myself working for someone I don't feel aligned with. And I want to not be broke, and I want to do good work in the world and help some people. That was it. I was like, okay, this thing is working. And then I kept working, kept investing in it. And I was like, okay. Even when I was making like 40, 50 grand a month, I was afraid to hire someone for 2K a month to help me. I was like, I don't have the money. My mind hadn't upgraded yet. I was afraid to do so many things. I was afraid to spend a few thousand on ads. I was afraid to do so many different things that could only be learned through a little bit of messiness, a little bit of clunkiness, a little bit of debt, you know, pain. Um, And then now, I couldn't imagine myself saying this, but now I have a team of 12 running a multi-million-dollar business. Like, kind of great. I didn't think. Um, and so my question as I was going was, why not? Why not? Why not? If I'm here, I'm gonna die in like 2 seconds. Why not do something big? Why not have fun with it? Why not see what I'm capable of? What would be the worst that could happen? Why not? So, anyways, that's what I got. We're kind of at time, but I'm happy to stay another 5 minutes. So, if anybody has any questions, reflections, feedback for me, but I hope this was valuable to you guys to some extent, reflecting on these things. Great space for a little bit different vibe in the coaching container. And let me know if you guys like this, because, then I'll do more. Or else not. If you're like bored, then that's cool too. I'll just keep it to myself. It's like, have fun talking to my wife about it. My team. I'm gonna talk about it anyway. It's not gonna.
This is really helpful, Yamuna. I have a quick question.
Yeah.
How do you say no to those clients that you feel aren't aligned, like in the most graceful, loving way?
It's probably pretty obvious to them as well. That's my intuition, and that's been my experience. And so all we're doing is talking about that. Like, hey, the only way this makes sense is if everybody feels like they're getting more, right? That would be the only reason to work together, is if you feel like you're getting more from life, and I feel like I'm getting more from life. To what extent, 1 to 10, do you feel like that? Right? I'm probably going to rate it a little bit questionable because they're feeling like that too. It's not aligned. My experience is blah, blah, blah. I could be wrong. I always preface or, end assumptions with I could be wrong, or maybe I'm imagining things because I don't ever want to just put someone in a box. It's just my experience, right? My experience is when I try to give you coaching, when I try to give you advice, it doesn't feel like you're open to it. It feels like combative. It feels not fun. It feels like you're resistant to it or closed off to the advice I have. I want to let you know, like, I deeply want you to win and I care about the things that you're doing. And like, this has been my experience, right? And I could just be imagining things, but like, what do you think? What do you think's happening there? You just have an open conversation. And then, do you feel like it would be best to just end this if it comes to that point, right? Maybe you resolve something. Maybe you have a breakthrough moment with someone. They're like crying, and you're like, "Oh my God, Lindsay, you were just misunderstanding, and blah blah. You're actually my dream coach, and I'm gonna listen to you from now. I'm gonna be best student. It's just like my hamster died, and I was really caught up about it, and like maybe that's happening. you know, you reminded me of this person I met 17 years ago that rejected me, and now it's triggering everything in my body. Whatever. I'm being a little dramatic, but you get the point. Sometimes that happens. I've had like a phrase I said by like an influencer be like, "Oh, you're just like all the other business coaches out there." I'm like, I quoted them once, and I'm me. But sometimes people have such intense experiences of other things that it's like they just put that onto you. And we do that too. Every human does that. Mind is a meaning making machine. Sometimes that's the meaning we make. Oh, this person's against me. They don't like me, whatever. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I don't like working with this person. But the thing is, I can want someone's best interest and serve them even without them being bestie material. That's something I've had to learn as I grow. And it seems obvious, but it was a lesson I had to learn a few times. I'm like, okay, do they have a problem I can solve? Are they coachable? Can they like be a little bit humble and learn? Do they have decent communication skills? Okay, cool. I can do this. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's always how I've handled it. And you can always just refund people. People will have very little complaints if you drop them and just give them a full refund. Or just, say, hey, I'm absolving you of your next payments. Would would you would you like that? Would you like to just end here and kind of call it a day? It's very rare we get that, but I've done it. It's usually a issue with the sales process because you let somebody in the sales process. That wasn't that good. But sometimes people show up a certain way in the sales process, 30, 40 minutes, and then a whole different way in the coaching container. So sometimes you can't catch it. Okay, any other questions, reflections, additions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
And I did come in midway, so I'm sorry if you already spoke into this,
Ah.
but what do you do? Because I identify with the scarcity archetype you were talking about. When you keep going into flight or fight about money and it feels really crunchy and like your body is just like freaking out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
You're
I'm just gonna mute you because you're echoing hard and my brain hurts from that. Um, if there's ever been a point where I had less money and I was still okay, that's always a good anchor, right? I like lived with $200 in my bank account for like 4 years as a monk and sleeping on the floor with like 14 dudes on a yoga mat. Not 14 dudes on one yoga mat, but we all had our own yoga mat. um, and like got horrible sleep, like lived in New York City, like had to ask to buy toothpaste, like, and I could find joy there. You know, just read Say Yes to Life by Viktor Frankl, right? Just read Viktor Frankl's books. He was in the Holocaust and he found joy in concentration camps. He still had the sun shining on his face. I've always found the core ingredients to happiness are always available at any money or not money, right? Like having an embrace from my wife. I love that. Having the sun shine on my face. I love that. Having my feet on the earth. Having a warm bowl of soup or food, some vegetables. I love that. Being able to pray. Being able to serve another human. Those things are available at $0 and at millions of dollars, right? So my wife's putting are not the birds provided for. She's quoting Saint Francis, right? Do they go without? No, every creature is provided for. And so for me, because I have, you know, faith is an important part of my life, um, that's always been like the prayer. Like, have I ever just perished? And would I give up any of my sufferings? Like, I've been through some pretty intense things, like really, really painful things. I've only shared it with one of you in this room. And and uh, and would I give those up? No, those were like gems that helped me so much in my life, even though I wouldn't wish them on anybody. And so, if the key ingredients for happiness are always available, and the worst things that have ever happened to me have grown me into who I am now, what is there to fear? Right? Not to quote Dune, but fear is the mind killer, right? Fear is the mind killer, the little death that happens inside of us. So it's an illusion. It's like an imagined reality, right? Worry is a prayer for something bad to happen. Worry is the power of the imagination used against oneself. Because it hasn't happened yet. It's just like a scenario you're obsessed about. Yeah, and then another frame is like actually just playing out the worst case scenario. Cool, you get a minimum wage job, or you'd get whatever other job. Great. you'd survive. It might not be like your dream aspiration, but like you're not gonna die from it. You're not gonna like, perish. You get what I'm saying? So I'm kind of giving these extremes on purpose because it's just they're helpful frames for me. Like play it out. Like even it's helpful with the prospects. Okay. And then what would happen? Right? Oh well, I'm scared if I couldn't make my next payment or whatever. Okay, and then what would happen? Well then, like it would be embarrassing and blah blah blah. Okay, and then what would happen? And they're like, oh well, like then I'd like be a little disappointed and okay, and then what would happen? And it's like this imagined little disappointment that they would feel and probably get over in a week or two is stopping them from one of the most important decisions in their life and going all in on it. And we do that to ourselves. So it's good to just ask, okay, and then what? And then what? Like, would you really just like ultimately perish and like die if whatever you're thinking isn't going to work, doesn't work? Probably not. Probably not. Anyways, Julie, is that helpful? Like,
Yeah, I don't want to hurt your brain, but it is. I think I've created a whole structure of pressure on myself um, that just becomes overwhelming. Like I have to get this thing filled and it has to be by this time. And it's like, you talk a lot about the gap between your skill level and I forget exactly how you frame it, but like your skill level is here and the thing you need to do is here and you have to, put time and energy in to close the gap. And I think I'm doing a lot of that. And so it might not happen as fast as I tried to force myself to make it happen. And that's okay.
Rick. God, the echo is horrible. I don't know what that is, but this may not land for you, but just yesterday I was thinking, wow, most things are not as easy or as hard as I think they are. I know it's kind of like a lame philosophical line, but I was like, wow, most things are not as easy or as hard as I make them out to be. They just are. There's a certain level of doing that needs to be done that just is. And it's not, I think a lot of people when people start, they dramatically underestimate what it takes to have a profitable business. Like, yeah, just clients are going to come in, I'll launch my program, people are going to come in, no. You have to learn some shit. And that is what makes it worth doing, in my opinion. That is the competitive moat, right, that you make for yourself and your business forever because most people are unwilling to do it. Because most people are unwilling to do it, it means there's a reward on the other side of it. That if you do, you can be set for life because most people are not willing to do it. And getting that first consistent $10,000, $20,000 a month is the hardest part by far. After that, you can have help, there's breathing room, you can spend more on ads, you can lose a little bit of money, but we're basically trying to perform miracles in this program sometimes because the ad spend that some of you guys have is so small and time and pressure on yourselves and like we're trying to squeeze a miracle out for you guys and like really give you like the best systems, the best support, the best community, whatever. There's so many courses out there, just 10 grand teach you how to make a course. 10 grand will launch ads and just forget about you. 10 grand, I'll teach you some stuff about sales and do nothing else. 10 grand, I'll build your funnel. We're trying our best to make it as easy as possible to win. And it's never been easier than now to win because of how unwilling people are to do the work, because of how soft people are. I'm not saying any of you guys, just you guys are here because you're a badass CBM community. That's why you're here. You're willing to do shit that other people are unwilling to do. But I've given this example before. To be in the top 10% of podcasts, you just had to make 9 episodes or get beyond 1 episode. So you'll be in the top 10% of all podcasts if you record 2 episodes. Okay? Now, 90% of those people won't make more than 20 episodes. So to be in the top 1% of podcasters of all time, you just have to make 21 episodes and release them. It could be a few minutes. You can clip up an 1 hour talk into 21 episodes, and now you're in the top 1%. So it's never been easier, but just people have never been so unwilling to put in a little bit of sweat than ever before. And part of that is due to marketing. You're just going to get rich in 2 seconds. Here's how I flexed 50 grand in 1 minute. Here's how I bought my Rolex while sleeping in Costa Rica. Here's how I blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah. But like we on our sales calls attempt to say shit's going to be hard. And when you get in, I'm definitely like, this shit's going to be hard right when you get in. Not hard, but challenging. I'll restate my language. Like you have to learn some shit. You're gonna have to be confronted. You're gonna have to die to the old you. And like, are you willing to do it? Like, is it worth it? Anything worth doing is challenging, in my opinion. It will confront you. And you will become the end product, not the 10 grand in your bank. The person you become is the end product. That's what we're trying to make in this program. Is better leaders, better mothers, better fathers, better communicators, better business owners. Not just like, made a sale, cool, cute, amazing, congrats. But who are you being? How are you showing up? What's your relationship with challenge and duality? That's what I get excited about personally, is helping people evolve that. Funnels, like that's something fine. Doesn't excite me. It's nice, it's good, it's all helpful. Don't get me wrong. It's great. So anyways, that's my answer for you, Julie. I'll take one more if anyone has it, or else we can end now.
I have a quick question, if that's okay. Actually, I don't even have it in my head, but the whole conversation about firing a client, I've been sitting with this almost feeling of disgust after there's one client who put a deposit down on the sales call, and I felt very aligned and wanting to help her. And then she just wouldn't sign an agreement. And then she showed up to our first onboarding session, which also felt like it went smooth. But at the end, when I was like, okay, I'm going to send you a contract right now, I need you to sign it before our first hypnotherapy session. And she started more objections came up. Like she did sign it on the spot because it was like she probably didn't expect me to make her do it. But now I almost like I don't want to do a session with her. And I went spinning all weekend after this, feeling like disgusted with myself that I didn't even bring up this, like, what is this about? Like fear about. And
Yeah.
so now my session is coming up with her, and I'm thinking like, do I have that deep honest talk, or do I like just be honest with her that I don't want to do it and fire her? I would
Yeah.
love her perspective on this.
So
And the disgust, sorry, just going back to disgust, when I tried to be honest with myself about why I didn't confront her, because honestly, I realized that I didn't want to lose the money that is upcoming, right? Like there's this, and then it was so out of integrity, it felt like. So that's a full picture.
So there's a few options. I probably wouldn't jump straight to firing her. I would, if anything, like the two options I would do is either one, just kind of get over what you're feeling, which I know is kind of wild to say. Like just okay, move on, right? She paid, she signed the agreement. She didn't do it exactly in the way you wanted, and you're also learning how to do this and how to make those boundaries and how to make it really easy for people to sign and clear that they need to do it and how to ask them directly. right? And make sure that it happens by a certain time. That's a skill you're learning. So maybe you just need to get over it. Didn't happen exactly the way you wanted, right? But you can still help this person. They did show up to the call. Everything else has gone smoothly, but not this one little thing in your mind. So one option, just get over it. Okay? And I've had to do that before. I'm like, oh, that bothered me. I'm just gonna get over it. How about that? And then two is just have a conversation around it. Say, hey, in service of the relationship, here's something that, frustrated me just a little bit. I wanted to bring it to light. Again, it's an open conversation for both of us to go into. And here's what I experienced. Do you have any perspective for me or things you'd like to bring to the table? Right? And then it's not like you're attacking her and, oh, you didn't sign it when I thought you're going to sign, and you're not the sort of client I thought you're going to be, and all this other stuff, energetically or otherwise, just clean. It's just like mature business owner, let's have a talk, right?
Yeah.
And then you just see. And then if it's like, oh, well, just see what it is. And if you can resolve it, great. And if not, then, would it be best for us to just refund you and kind of move on?
Yeah. Well, her objection was also questioning my expertise, right? Like she was asking me about what's the success rate and all the things that we already went on the call. Right?
Did that bother you?
Oh yeah, because deep down, I there is my belief.
Yeah.
About,
so then
I know
you could say there are no success stories yet.
Well, I got defensive on this call, and I shared one success story that I do have on this program. So, which I shouldn't have. I realized that I should have been like, I know your advice on, is it about my methodology or is it about you not feeling like or you're willing to do the work? That's the real question, right? To ask in this.
That's not the exact way I would put it. I would say, hey, do you feel like the method is the issue and the method's not actually going to get you the result? Or do you feel like it's just not going to work for you specifically? Right? And then they're going to kind of reveal, blah, 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 and if they think it's just the method.
I'm going to ask that question. That feels good. Yeah.
And it's just your pitch that needs to improve.
Yeah.
Because anyone's just going to buy based on your pitch. And then they're going to get your actual product. Right? And ideally, what we teach is that the pitch should match exactly what they're getting.
Yeah.
That you don't have to exceed anybody's expectations, you just have to meet them. And people at you.
So here's my fear in relation to this that you might. So we broke it down in 3 payments. So basically my fear is that she's going to show up to this session because she kind of paid her first installment and then she might disappear. Is it something if you worth addressing, even though she signed a contract? I just don't feel like she's invested in doing the homework I'm giving her. And she's been dragging with this contract and she's just showing up because she already gave me a deposit. That's my gut.
Did you tell her when you wanted the homework by? And how to submit it?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
And then she didn't?
Yeah, and then she didn't. Or she sent it to me 5 minutes before the call instead of when I told her to send it to me.
And that's a big problem for you.
It's not, but it's not what I asked for.
Did you reset the expectation on the call? Hey,
no, I didn't.
Okay, that's something you need to do. You have to be a better leader in this. And then at least on your end, you could say you were absolutely clear. But when it's this weird, you're kind of setting the expectation, then you're kind of getting resentful for it, and then you're not really reestablishing the expectation to give them a chance to follow through exactly and have it be explicitly clear exactly what you want, but then you're still resentful, then you want to fire. That's not going to work. Or else it'll work, but it'll just be painful for everybody. It won't be the highest benefit. So that's what I got for you. All right? Make it explicitly clear.